Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian is now available. I watched it this morning. Let's discuss. We open up on a village. We see these people who are kind of helpless against these attacks from scavengers, pirates, orcs, let's call them. The village gets ravaged by Star Wars orc pirates, and they don't really have any defense. And right off the bat, you kind of see where this episode is going. And this episode heavily reminded me of an episode of the Clone Wars, and you guys are gonna have to refresh my memory. I can't remember which episode it was, and I can't even remember which character it was, but wasn't there an episode of the Clone Wars where either Ahsoka or one of the Jedi, or maybe a couple Jedi, ended up on a planet and they taught the people that lived in this village how to defend themselves against pirates? Instantly reminded me of that episode. Anyway, once again, I love the connection between the Mandalorian and the kid. And one of the more interesting things is when just the two of them are together. You know, if the Mandalorian was just talking to himself, whenever there's scenes like that in movies or shows where a character is just talking to themselves, basically feeding the audience what it needs to know, it always has felt goofy to me. It always feels weird. But having the kid around, you know, we hear the Mandalorian speak and it gives more context, and he's not talking to himself because he's talking to a kid. We talk to our kids, we talk to babies, we talk to pets. It's just a great way to have the Mandalorian, you know, have more dialogue. We get to know him a little better through his conversations with this kid who can't speak, so we think. And once again, fandom changes, viewpoint changes when you have a kid. I loved the beginning where you see Baby Yoda messing with things. Stop touching it. Stop. Just put that away. You're not allowed to get in that cabinet. Put it down. That is a daily conversation. And I got a good chuckle out of it. So the Mandalorian, you know, he's looking for a place to lay low. And he ends up on the planet where we saw the village get ransacked at the beginning of the episode. He goes to a cantina, he goes to a bar. There is a character there by the name of Cara Dune. And apparently she was, she's a veteran of the rebellion. She has a Rebel Alliance tattoo on her face. And I give it 48 hours before we see that pop up on Instagram that somebody got it because of this show. Don't do that. Hey, don't do that. But after a tussle, they decide to have a drink, discuss what's going on. She's, I believe, a member of the Bounty Hunter Guild as well. So, you know, she basically says there's only room for one of them on this planet. The Mandalorian eventually ends up in the village that we saw at the beginning. And the reason is, some guys approach him by his ship as he's about to leave. They offer him money in return for protection against the orc pirates. Mandalorian's looking for a quiet place to stay. Eventually, the Mandalorian agrees to at least stay and help the people. The episode was okay. You know, I like the characters. I like seeing a softer side of the Mandalorian when he's around, you know, people who are in complete need of help. You see him wanting to do the right thing and leaving this kid behind on this peaceful planet where these people obviously would take care of him and give him a great life. You know, through the show's progression, through the first 3 episodes into this one, we've gotten to know the Mandalorian a little bit better, and what was a tough exterior turns out to have a heart in the end. And when he arrives, he ends up teaming up with Cara Dune, and they're gonna, I guess, go help this village. But when he arrives in the village, it's kind of a window into a life that could be, right? If it wasn't for Baby Yoda, he might settle down and he might lay low in this village. He might raise a family. He might live a quiet life, a happier life as a farmer. But due to circumstances out of his control, due to this role he's taken on as almost a father figure or a protector, his priorities are not to look out for himself. This entire village is kind of a window into what could be for the Mandalorian. So as I said earlier in the video, the Mandalorian decides to help train these villagers on how to take down the AT-ST once they find out the raiders have an AT-ST. And as I said, this reminds me of a Clone Wars episode, like big time. Wasn't there a Clone Wars episode where one of the Jedi, I can't remember who, helped train a peaceful, sleepy village how to fight against pirates? I think there was. Anyway, you guys are going to correct me, I know that. But there's a training montage, which is fun, very similar to what I remember from the Clone Wars montage. Giving weapons to people who have never really handled weapons and they don't really know what to do. They're putting the dull end out front instead of the pointy end, not hitting targets, but through the montage they get better. The Mandalorian and Cara sneak to the Raiders camp, they attack them, they provoke them. The villagers dug a huge kind of like pit in one of their farming plots. It was covered in water to try to kind of provoke the ATST to step into it and fall and just be out of commission. I really liked when the ATST started coming towards the village. You see the glow of like the red lights that are inside the ATST's windows, the eyes, and it's kind of an eerie kind of force coming through the woods. You see nothing else but these red glowing eyes and the kind of the mechanical thump and squeals of this giant war machine coming towards this peaceful village. It was a really great kind of tension building moment and shot. I really enjoyed this shot. The plan initially doesn't work as intended. The ATST stops right before the trap, and I liked the scene where the ATST was kind of scanning and surveying the land with a giant floodlight, seeing all the defenses that they've built up, seeing that they're not walking into just a free-for-all shooting range where they can take anything. There's actually defense around this village. But in the end, the ATST steps forward. The villagers win the day. One of the things, the music in this episode reminded me heavily of like a Smoky Mountain gift shop. You know, Great Smoky Mountain National Park. They got some gift shops around there, and they're always playing like that kind of, I don't know, slow acoustic banjo or, you know, ukulele music, and just kind of showing slideshows of bears and waterfalls and stuff like that. It kind of made me chuckle while I was watching the episode. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It fits with kind of this sleepy, peaceful village. But it heavily reminded me of a Great Smoky Mountain National Park gift shop. Anyway, the episode was okay, in my opinion. Out of the 4 that we've seen, it's probably my least favorite. Don't get me wrong, I really liked it, but I really liked kind of seeing the Heart of Gold flourish in The Mandalorian. I really like the end where the Mandalorian, you know, he wants to leave the kid. He wants to do good by the kid. He wants the kid to have a good life. And he's going to step out of the kid's life to make that happen. He's going to leave the kid here where obviously people would raise him right and show him a lot of love. But at the end, we see a bounty hunter kind of sneaking up to the village, right? And he has a fob, and he goes to take a shot. Cara Dune kills the bounty hunter, and once again, the realization that this kid is not safe. No matter where he is, he's going to be tracked. I mean, the bounty hunter shows up with a tracking fob, and the Mandalorian kind of realizes that they have to move out. They can't stay in one place for too long. The kid can't really sit around in one spot for very long. It's a constant game of cat and mouse where the cat has a GPS tracker. One thing that I've really liked about all these episodes, and I'm sure, you know, characters and stuff like that are going to come back, but there's a constant pace, a constant move in the show to get to new places, meet new characters and stuff like that. I don't know if we'll see this village again. I don't know if we'll see those characters in the village again. I don't know if we'll see Cara Dune again. Just as we don't know if we're going to see Grief again, or the other Mandalorians that we met, or the blacksmith Mandalorian, or Werner Herzog's character, or IG-11. There's a lot of characters that are in an episode or two, get left behind. I'm sure we'll see them again, but I like the constant momentum to move from place to place to place. You know, I love the idea of the Mandalorian kind of helping out. I'm assuming he didn't take payment after all that. And I liked learning a little bit more about the Mandalorian and the helmet. One of the villagers, I don't know if her name was ever spoken, but she asks when the last time he took that off was, and he said yesterday. So we know that, you know, he takes it off to do things. But he says he hasn't taken it off in front of people until he was about the age of the kids that were playing outside, maybe 10 years old or so. You get a little bit more context, a little bit more information. You know, a character that's not in the know is feeding the Mandalorian questions that we want to know, right? So yeah, overall, the episode was okay. Some of the villager acting felt kind of like overly goofy. Does that make sense? Like when you see a character or an actor or something like that acting overly goofy or overly ignorant, just kind of overly dumb. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Overall, I liked it. It might be my least favorite episode out of the 4, but it definitely sets things up for the Mandalorian to continue to be on the run. Can't sit around too long. Go, go, go. Gotta look after this kid. Wants to do the right thing, doesn't want him to live a life of bounty hunting and jetting across the galaxy, but at this point, he doesn't really have much of a choice. And I'm excited to see where the next episode takes our crew. HelloGreedo, out.